Welcome to Remember Your Source. So excited to have my guest here, Dawn Morningstar. And Dawn founded Venerable Women, and we have a lot in common in that we're both empowering women in our ways, in our unique ways. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you, Dawn, about how you remember Source. Please introduce yourself and Venerable Women.
I'd love to. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I have so enjoyed the journey that you and I have both been on for all the years we've known each other. And I celebrate what you're doing right now. So many wonderful things. And this is the time, right?
Yes.
So I founded Venerable Women in 2013 after having been a coach to women for, I realize now it's about 25 years. I was coaching before there was even a name for it. And then when there was a name for it, I went and got certified and master certified as a professional coach. I love coaching because the way I was trained and the way that I practice is that I'm always really accessing the inner wisdom within each person. And I think that's what we're being called to do. I see you do that, Julie, in all of your work with groups and individuals as well, because we all have that beauty inside of us, that wisdom, and then to be able to access that and live from that, that's where the empowerment comes from.
Absolutely.
So,
Well said. That's exactly why we're remembering our source.
yes.
Because that source is that inner wisdom and that connection.
Yes, it is.
To that brilliance. So thank you, all listeners, for being here. And thank you, Dawn, for being here.
My pleasure.
So, and when you experience gratitude, it opens up your world in so many ways. So tell us a little bit about how you remember Source, and then as always, I'm going to pick the cards to take us on that journey.
Lovely. Well, what you just said is exactly one of the ways that I do it. I call it a peace pause. I take a little peace pause, and what it really boils down to is using inner awareness. I believe that's the key to everything, is inner awareness, because we have so much going on all around us all the time. And to take a little peace pause and just to become aware. It could be aware of, for example, I just glanced out the window and see just a few little leaves turning colors here in St. Paul. And just to be aware of the beauty of nature all around us, or to be aware that I'm so grateful, as you said, about gratitude, to be able to share some ideas that have helped me along the way and that might be helpful to your listeners and viewers. And I agree with you 100%. Gratitude, I call that in my book, Venerable Women, Transform Ourselves, Transform the World. I call it the great multiplier. I believe that gratitude is the great multiplier of joy, of higher resonance, all of that. So the way that I remember Source is just simply to take a little peace pause and be aware. And that seems to be such a simple yet effective thing. It's so funny how sometimes it's the very simple things that have the most powerful impact.
Yes, and we were just talking about things are not always a time of gratitude.
That's right.
There's challenges that come along the way. And so how to manage ourselves through challenges without being too, airy-fairy or out there just, being in this joy, but being present to what is. So with that, I'm going to pick the first card and we'll see what comes up to remind us of this journey of remembering source energy. So the first phase is to just be present to what is. And your card is, this is nice. What aspect of your life do you spend the majority of your time focused on?
I would honestly have to say consciousness and raising my spiritual understanding. That really truly is the most important part of my life. I think it's really important for each one of us to figure out what that big thing is for us and then dedicate ourselves to it. Then we're happier and we feel really aligned. So yeah, I love that card. Can I see what it looks like?
And it says,
oh, cool.
And it says, is this serving you? And you just answered that. Is it serving you? And again, we were just talking a little bit briefly about, is it serving you through challenging times?
Yeah.
Stay focused on consciousness and
Yeah. So should we talk about the accident? Yeah.
yeah,
Because what you said is so true. I'm going to be doing a talk on this in a few weeks. So this is perfect. I was just thinking about this. The idea of how to stay spiritual when bad stuff happens, or how to stay elevated when bad stuff happens. Because what I really believe is in this fifth dimension that we are either in or moving into, um, we realize that's a dimension of enlightenment, of oneness, and so on. It doesn't mean that bad things or uncomfortable things aren't going to happen. We're here on a human plane, and that's just the way it is, right? But what it does mean is we get to choose what our response is to it. And that's where remembering source comes in. Because I was at a meeting at the University Club here in St. Paul, and I was in in the club for about 4 hours coaching. And I came out and my car had been smashed to smithereens, literally unrecognizable. And I couldn't even wrap my head around it. And so I remember going through a lot of different things, as you would, shock, disbelief, all of that sort of thing. A little bit of anger, like, oh my gosh, now I'm going to have to deal with all of this insurance stuff and all of that. And a little bit of, I can't believe the person hit my car and then kept on driving, the hit and run aspect. So I think that is one of the steps, is we allow ourselves our human emotions. I think that to skip past that part is really doesn't serve us. So we allow ourselves, yep, I was upset, I was confused, I was fearful, I was all those things, right? And then very quickly, because I was using inner awareness, I went to, okay, it's a material thing. No one got hurt. I wonder what caused that woman to be driving so fast, because witnesses said she was driving very fast with children in the car on her cell phone, seeming frantic. I went to compassion. What was happening in her life that caused her to do that and to leave the scene of a crime? And so that's how we can go from our very human selves, that's the 3D self, right? And into the fourth dimension, which I think is that inner awareness and consciousness, into that fifth dimension of oneness. I let myself be one with gratitude that no one got hurt, gratitude that I do have an insurance company, and I will have wheels to get around and do what I need to do, and all of that sort of thing. So I think another way to remember source is to pay attention to what our responses to those yucky things are.
and go to compassion, because you immediately
Yes,
opened up your world by coming from that place.
absolutely.
By the way, when you were saying that, I got complete chills
Yeah.
around that experience of when something bad, to look to the other side and say, they must be in a lot of pain.
Yes.
One of the things I think the Course in Miracles has taught me is people are either expressing love or asking for love.
Oh, I love that.
I know, it's just those two things. It's
Expressing love or asking.
expressing love or
Wow. Okay, writing that one down. Is that Course in Miracles?
yes, that's Course in Miracles. That's what I experienced in my training in the late 90s when I was going through Course in Miracles. But
Wow, I studied that for 7 years. I guess I wasn't ready to hear that line yet, but I am now.
but it's such a simple way of looking at people and people's responses, because if they're not expressing love, they're asking for love.
Yeah.
So how can we get to an allowing source energy to move through and bring compassion to the expression of what's needed at the time?
Yeah, exactly. And I do really want to say, I know I said it before, but I really think it's important to remember that we can't get there right away. Well, actually, let me say that differently. Some people can. I'm sure there are very ascended people who can get there immediately in the moment. So not to be hard on ourselves if it takes us a little bit of time to feel those very human emotions. But then remember, okay, I can choose a different way. I can walk around the corner and look at this from a different angle, right?
Yeah, and that brings us to the second card in the second phase, which is to open ourselves up So when something happens, to notice where you're at, what you're thinking, and open ourselves up so that we can see things a little bit differently. And that takes us to a nice card, which is identify 5 to 10 things that you like to do.
Oh, wow, 5 to 10 things. I like to do so many things. Well, the first thing that popped in my mind was I love having deep and rich conversations with people where it's not about like surface stuff, like where we get right down to it. I love that. I mean, I kind of live for that. Um, and I have a few friends. Well, you're one of them where we actually schedule time to have deep conversations. And that was really the first thing that popped into my head. I love to create meals. I love to cook. I love to um, create healthy food that's beautiful and delicious. I love walking through my neighborhood. I live in a really beautiful part of St. Paul, and I love walking during the different seasons and experiencing the changes in the trees.
It's easy to remember source in nature, I
Yes,
find.
it is.
Yes.
And you're right. Nature, I think, takes us there pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly, and same with gratitude. So it's another way to get to that space.
Yeah, good point. I would have to really put in the top of the list here. I love coaching people. I literally get high when I'm coaching people because I'm watching their inner wisdom come out and they're trusting themselves more. And that just rocks my world. And so, yeah.
So I'm going to pick the third card, which is
great.
what's emerging from this conversation, and to complete this statement. I have a dream that.
I have a dream that all human beings are honored, loved, and respected by themselves.
Yeah.
And therefore can see that in all other human beings. So I just really envision a world where people love themselves and respect themselves and honor themselves so that they would have no need to do anything but be their highest and best selves. And then they go about the world, happy and peaceful and connected because there would be nothing separating them. I think the separation we see today is because people don't feel good about themselves. And so they may have a need to make others feel smaller or less than, whatever it may be. Yeah. And I remember something I learned from you a few years back, Julie, where you said when something happens in the dance world, like where somebody steps on somebody's toe or whatever, it's not about that step. It's if you look back to the steps that led to that, then you get to, what's really happening now. And so that idea of my beautiful world that I envision, if I go to that woman in the black pickup truck who was driving so frantically, if we were to take some steps backwards, and had she loved and honored and respected herself, would she have still been in that situation of having to flee something and having to leave the scene of a crime and all of the bad feelings that go with that? I'm sure she's not feeling good about what she did, but so again, I really do believe it sounds so, gosh, I feel like I can hear my older relatives back in the day say, that sounds like hippie talk, Dawn, about loving and honoring and respecting ourselves. But I really mean it from my heart because I know how I feel when I'm in love with myself and when I'm honoring myself and respecting myself. I only have things to give. I don't really want to take things or misconstrue things. I just feel like my cup is overflowing and I want to share. And so anyway, yeah, great question.
Excellent. Well, this has been wonderful. Dawn, we have so many things we could share on this show.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I really would like to end by inviting everyone to really embolden yourself to change the world by bringing your own wisdom to life, because the world needs your wisdom and your love.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
Thank you. It's been a joy.
Bye-bye.